5 of 7 of the Super Sprint Sunday Championship. I'm Jack Prentice and I'm bringing to you the pros and the silvers doing battle in upstate New York. We were at Watkins Glen, home of the US Grand Prix for decades in the past. Obviously not yet now with all of the street tracks and the clamour of street circuits from the FIA. We're not coming to Watkins Glen, but the GT3s and the GT3 cars are doing battle with the pros and the silvers and the very best of Formula Racing League Sunday class doing the battle here today. You can see that there are two shades, two car classes, if you like, in the numbers on the left-hand side. The silvers are the darker grey, such as Azem Popov, who is making rather a splash in his first season in the championship. And you can see Marcel Busler's just got up to the fastest in silver with the pro drivers in the lighter numbers. You can see Paul Wittler, Jared Vermeulen, Maxime Gonalons and Fabio Travaglioli amongst them. And we've got 15 seconds for me to tell you about the race format. If you're not already aware, 5 races or 5 rounds of 7, so only a couple of weeks to go after this before the season is decided. And you've got a 25-minute race to start the sprint race at 25 minutes and a feature race at 45 minutes, with the feature race being completely reversed in the championship, in the racing order from which you finished the first race. All you've got to do is finish 80% of those races. We'll take you through the championship standings in just a short second. We'll just make sure that the cars and the drivers are all in position. You can see a maximum wait time of less than 3 minutes, and car 57 is going to be the last across the line to hopefully bring us to qualifying. A one-shot affair qualifying, so as soon as you start your lap, that is it. You've got no more chances, so you cannot afford to mess it up. So let's take you through the championship standings, starting with the silver class, and we will go from top to bottom with Lee Colbitz still in the lead of the championship. He's 6 points clear of Gordon Brown in the McDonald's Audi. Lee Colbitz in the BMW car number 94, which we will see there now. You can see just above the blue Porsche, the silver and orange Beamer. He's ahead of Gordon Brown in the 134 Audi. John Gaudet is on 209 points. He's only 14 points off of the lead. So Gaudet showing race-winning pace previously. So on his first full championship season, looking to try and see if he can take one of the top medals in the silver class. Serafino Gabino is in 4th position. He is on 206 points, so only 3 behind Gaudet, and he's 2 points clear of Gareth Harvey in 5th, who's level with Arzen Popov. Popov, who we mentioned earlier on, in 6th position, just ahead of Alexander Kalugin, also on 204 points. Greg Wood is in 8th position, the runner-up from the AM Championship last season, just ahead of his AM foe last season, Jamie Thacker, on 199 points. 1 point separates those two from 8th to 9th. Richard Gearman, so often the best qualifier in silver, not able to turn it into a race win as of yet. So Richard Gearman in 10th position on 191 points. The Dutchman has won just the one race. He could be leading the championship with a bit better luck. Luke Richings is in 11th on 190 points. He's just ahead of Mark Elino, 186 in 12th, with Jake Hanley 13th, ahead of 1GR in 14th. And Renard Steffensen, the defending champion, all the way down in 15th. Christian Øverland has started the season a little bit late. The Norwegian driver, he is on 139 points, ahead of Petter Bostel and Daniel Kazakevich, with Maximilian Basler only a recent addition to the championship. And Maximilian Morniveg, a rare starter, down in 21st position. Okay, well, let's take you through before we get to the first laps. As we can see, Jamie Thacker the first over the line with Jared Vermeulen and Paul Wittler. Marco Brustilli behind. So we'll start to see the laps tumbling soon. Fabio Travaglioli leads the pro class by 16 points, ahead of Will Friedman in 2nd position. Borja Giguere is in 3rd, the Spaniard on debut, on 212 points, just 8 behind Will Friedman. Marco Brustilli is in 4th position on 203 points, ahead of Adam Sharp, who has had to retire from the championship for this season, in 5th position. So Paul Wittler is in 6th, but that will become 5th very, very soon. He's ahead of Vaclav Pospisil, with those two 196 and 194 points respectively. Andres Delay is in 8th. He is on 192, and the McLaren level on points with Michael Harris in 9th position. Jared Vermeulen, so often the champion, so often the conqueror of all before him. He is in 10th position on 191 points after a couple of DNFs to go with a couple of race wins. Johnny Sharp is in 11th, ahead of Josh Clayton in 12th position on 191 and 185 points, with Andrew Eden in 13th, ahead of Anthony Perez in 14th. After Hyman's Stefan Muller are 15th, 16th on 181 and 175, with Francesco Banabianco and Daniel Crossman, who have not always been the most consistent of appearances, making up the top 18. Morgan Grace and Steve Desert are more sporadic appearers in this season's championship. As we come back to Jamie Thacker, just going around the final corner in that black and white 4-Buster, almost reminds me a bit of Craig Lowndes' Triple 8 car in the Aussie V8 from about 20 years ago, some of you may remember. But going through the final corner, he is, and he's going to set the first lap, so we'll see how quickly this goes through the final corner. It's all about getting a good, safe lap in without going too far over the line. And across the line, it is a 1 minute 45 flat. That won't trouble the top drivers, I wouldn't have thought. But here comes Jared Vermeulen to hopefully trouble those top runners. 1 minute 43.3. So South Africa not as quick as we were expecting. Bush Tully's now coming across the line in car number 2. As you know, he's had to pull into the pits. So it's going to be car 33 that we go. That's Richard Gimmer, because Paul Vidler has gone second and Daniel Kazakevich has gone 5th. Richard Gimmer goes up into 3rd, so he is pole for the silver class at this moment in time. There's a couple more coming across the line. Looks like Alexander Kalugin is going to be coming across the line. That's to start his lap time. So car 230 is 1GR. Bit inconsistent from the Spaniard so far this season, but when he's on it, he really is on it in the black and yellow BMW. Across the line we go for Jared Ford 1GR, and it's not to start or finish, it's to start a lap time. So that shows me. So plenty of drivers there, leaving it very late indeed to go and set a lap time. You think there's not many drivers on an outlap, really. So with only 5 drivers setting their lap time, plenty leaving it as late as they possibly can to go and set that lap time now. So car 963 is next across the line, I think. So who's that going to be? That's going to be Anthony Perez, a Frenchman who's been very quick this season, if not always having the luck to back that up. One last time out in the Pro Class, 5th position for the Frenchman, so he will start behind a couple of silver drivers in Jamie Thacker and Richard Gim. Renard Serfontaine is just coming to set or to finish a lap time, so it's going to be Alexander Kalugin in car 334 that we look to try and find. And whenever that shows up, here he is, the Russian in the McLaren, just coming in that striking blue and purple McLaren livery that he's always had, and a man who's been growing. I think it's fair to say he's not always been the quickest, but he's growing and growing and growing into the silver class with every passing week, and it's been impressive to see his certainly been very impressive to see his overall improvement. Through the final couple of corners we go now, down a couple of gears. Just keep the car to the left hand side. You don't really want to take too much curve because you've got too tight an exit or too tight an entrance for the final corner. This is the apex, but just as long as you don't hit the wall too hard, you should be fine. If it doesn't affect your run out of the corner, across the line we go. 6th position, so 3rd overall in the silver class, 6th overall and 3rd in silver. And across the line, I think Walter Hyams is just about to start his lap time, so we're going to go try anyway to car 68. He's coming across the line, we've missed it, I think. Car 68 goes up into, well, it doesn't actually show where he's going up into, so it's going to be Johnny Sharp we're going to try and find in the Ferrari. Across the line we go. And that's the start. So let's see if we can find a driver finishing a lap time. Andres Delay might be the one. Now, the Spaniard in that striking blue and green McLaren, and it's the start, isn't it? Of course it is. So we go now to Petter Postel, who's damaged his front end quite badly. So the Czech driver's crashed on his outlap, has continued on his merry way. That should be his not very merry way, because that's going to be a pig to drive. Renard Serfontaine is across the line. Up into 7th he goes, 4th in silver. So the South African driver, a bit of a return to form there. Maxime Gonalons is now across the line. That is to start his lap. So no, nothing doing there. Stefan Muller, though, might be to finish. Coming through the final couple of corners now. Down a couple of gears into the penultimate corner. Runs too wide, does he? Is that an invalidation? We'll see. He's going to carry on regardless. Through the final corner we go, and what's it going to be for Stefan Muller? He did run very, very wide in that second to last corner, and the Porsche driver, is he going to be made to pay for it? No, he's not, because this might be to start a lap time. We don't know. It's Ola now in the Lexus, one of the pro reserves that's been signed up very late on, and across the line he goes, Ola. Where's this going to be? Ola. No, it's not going to be anything at all at the moment because he is setting his lap time now. Bouter Hymans, though, is a man who's going to be posting a time on the board. What's the Dutchman going to do here? Across the line we go, and it's going to be fourth for the Dutchman. So he is 1.5 seconds off the pace. He's just behind Richard Gearman, so that's fourth with Marcolino across the line in 12th position as Jamie Thacker. No, who's that? That's got up the line. Johnny Sharp is up into fourth. Now Fabio Travaglioli is the man that we missed out. Second, he goes 0.2 of a second off the pace. And now it's going to be car 233. That's Andres Delay. Where's the Spaniard going to go? And he goes up into 10th. So 7th in class. He's behind 3 silvers, but 10th it is for Andres Delay. Car 208 next across the line. Who's that going to be? Can't see it at the moment because it's Will Friedman who's starting his lap time. Now, 198. Who's this? It's Maxime Bonalon. Now, this is to set a lap time in the green and gold McLaren. Across the line we go. Where's it going to be? It's going to be fourth. So, not quite as quick as we were expecting for Maxime Bonalons, but he is up into fourth position, and that will certainly be a strong enough position to start from. Lee Colpitts is coming across the line, although he tends to start his lap times quite late. So I wonder if this is another late ploy from the Englishman, but across the line he's going to go. Stefan Muller, meanwhile, is going to go across the line to complete his lap time as Lee Colpitts starts and not finishes. Stefan Muller starts and he goes up into 12th position. So he's just behind Andres Delay. That is 9th in class because a few drivers have been dropped down. So 12th position for the German, 9th in class. Car 134 is Gordon Brown. Now, I think this is to start and not finish. The Flying Scotsman with the McDonald's branding on there, which gives me enough time to remind you that all of this is bought and paid for by the Patreon service. It's £4 a month. And what you get is early access to championships, to different servers, and you pay for the commentators like me. It's that or it's half a Big Mac, and I think this is better value as we can see the McDonald's adorned Audi coming up the back straight now, going into the bus stop chicane, down a couple of gears, attack the curbs really. You don't want to do it too much in the Audi because it is very flighty. Keep the car to the inside though, don't run too wide, and just slowly build on the throttle. Don't go too early on the throttle, you'll go too wide. Down the hill we go now. Pull the car to the right hand side, down a couple of gears. You can take a late apex there, which is what Brown has done, because it means you've got a slightly better exit, slightly longer on the power, and up towards the hill now. Can get plenty of oversteer here. Down a couple more gears and then slowly feed the power on. Don't lose the back end too much because you'll forever lose the time. Up the hill. Now going into the heel. So we've gone round the toe, part of the boot. Now we're going to the heel. So down into second gear in the Audi, I think it is. Then build the power. Don't run too wide once again. Has he run too wide? I think he has run too wide. And that is his qualifying over. So Gordon Brown, who was one of the championship contenders, is out of qualifying, and he's not the only one, because you can see there a plethora of names have failed to qualify. Mark Limbrush Tully among them, with Morniveg in 26th ahead of Gabino, Poshmachil, Gordon Brown, Christian Nerveland, Borja Gigaday, and Maximilian Basler, all amongst those who have not qualified. So we'll take you through the grid properly with Jared Vermeulen on pole position ahead of Fabio Travaglioli, so that should be fireworks coming into the first corner. Paul Vidler is third ahead of Maxime Gonalons in fourth as the first non-Ferrari on the grid, with Johnny Sharp and Ola fifth and sixth. Richard Gearman takes silver pole. He is seventh. Sharon row number 4 with Morgan Grace ahead of RZ Popov. Will Friedman only 10th position, so the Frenchman has got a bit of work to do there. Bouter Hymans is 11th ahead of Jamie Thacker, who's third in the silver class, with Anthony Perez and Gareth Harvey 13th and 14th. Row 8 is Alexander Kalugin and Andres Delay, with the pro and silver drivers both in the McLaren, so making an all-McLaren row number 8. Stefan Muller goes 17th. He's ahead of Lee Colpitts in 18th. Bernard Serfontaine and Luke Richings share row number 10, with Juan Chiart and Daniel Kazakevich 21st and 22nd. Marcolino, Petter Boschner with that heavy damage on the Ferrari are the last drivers to set a lap time in 23rd and 24th, as 8 cars are unable to set a representative lap time due to the qualifying rules. We will be back with you in just a couple of minutes when we can take away race number 1. And welcome back to race number 1 of 2. So round number 5, so it's effectively races 9 and 10, and into a 7 event season. That feels quite crazy to say, really, that we are well into finding out exactly who is going to be the champion for both the Pro and the Silver class. As you can see on pole position, we can see Jared Vermeulen in the green Ferrari with stablemate Paul Vidler in third, as you can see there, alongside Fabio Travaglioli and Maxime Gonalons, with Johnny Sharp and Ola in sixth, ahead of Richard Gearman and Morgan Grace in 7th and 8th. Azem Popov 9th, ahead of Will Friedman in 10th, with Matt Hymans and Jamie Thacker on row number 6. Row number 7 is Anthony Perez and Gareth Harvey, with Kalugin in 15th, ahead of Andres Delay in 16th, Stefan Muller and Lee Colbitz, row number 9, Renard Serfontaine and Luke Richings, row number 10, Juan Giar and Daniel Kazakevich, row number 11, with 23rd and 24th, Marcolino and Petter Boschel. Marcelin Bristulli's the first of those that didn't qualify, so he's got plenty to do. The man they call the Ego, he needs to do plenty of work in order to land where he wants to land, up in the top echelons of the racing order. Maximilian Morniveg is 26th. He's ahead of Serafino Gabino and Vaclav Pospisil. Gordon Brown is 29th, ahead of Christian Overland, with Maximilian Basler and Borja Gigere making up the last of the runners and riders, with nearly 30 seconds to go in the race that they will be calling. Let's just take a quick look and make sure that we don't get this quite so mixed up. The schedule for the 2 is going to be slightly later races. It's going to be the Luke Prentice 25 minutes, and he's got that through being a Patreon member, with the Reverse Strife 45, a nod to this very commentator in the second race. 10 seconds to go, as you can see on the clock. Countdown session start. Jared Vermeulen waiting and wondering, is he going to be on pole position? Is he going to be able to take advantage of pole position, with Fabio Travaglioli in second position alongside Paul Vidler in third? And we will be waiting and finding out in just a second. And we are coming around the final corner to set up. As you can see, Vaclav Pospisil starting from the pit lane following previous misdemeanors. He will be out of contention, but that doesn't matter, because we are go. We are green. And Vermeulen gets a good start in the Ferrari, covers off Fabio Travaglioli. He's going to have a run around the outside. Paul Vidler's lost out to Maxime Gonalons, who goes up the inside of Fabio Travaglioli. Travaglioli's going to have to go wide. That will give the advantage to Vermeulen. Up the straight, through the S's they go. It's Gonalons up into third. He's got past Paul Vidler, who's got Ola fighting with Johnny Sharp back into sixth position. Richard Gearman looks like he's dropped back as well. Where's the Dutchman gone? He's dropped back behind Morgan Gray, certainly. Maybe Azem Popov and Will Friedman have also got through. Popov has dropped way back in the Aston Martin, so the Bulgarian's in strife, as is Maximilian Morniveg. Oh no, Maximilian Morniveg has crashed on the straight, so let's have a look and see what's happened to the German. Petter Postel is also in difficulties. That's Barcolino driving the wrong way, so he's had to recover at some stage. So Azem Popov, you can see that front end bounced, banged and bonged in the Aston Martin. Vaclav Pospisil has not left the pit lane, so the Czech driver is certainly not checking out of the pit box at this moment in time. But in the lead, it's no, it isn't. It's Jared Vermeulen, with Fabio Travaglioli up to second. Maxime Gonalons, a bit like Ipswich Town, has been promoted by a position. He's up into third position. He's now got Paul Vidler looking to relegate him, a bit like if he was Norwich City. He's been going down into fourth position, with Ola in fifth position. Johnny Sharp is in sixth, having been dropped back at the start. He's now stuck behind that fast starting Lexus, so he's going to have to work his way back up the order, with Grace in seventh and Will Friedman having gotten rid of the two silvers. Richard Gibbon is in class lead, so he survived the Dutchman. He has survived in getting through the first lap, and And he lost the win last time out through no fault of his own, no fault of anybody's. It was technical failure that took Gordon Brown completely out by surprise, and certainly took Richard Gibbon completely by surprise at Imola. Who's that coming off? I think that's Jamie Thacker. He's dropped back. I think he's ahead now of Anthony Perez. The Perez in the all-black Ford Mustang, with Gareth Harvey in the BMW, third in silver and 13th overall. Lee Colbitz has got up into 15th. He's fourth in class, so it's been a good start for the Englishman in terms of his championship aspirations. He stays roughly where he should be. Andres Delay has been delayed, hasn't he, because he's in 14th, the McLaren driver. So the blue and green machine is struggling a bit to get away, as Paul Vidler had briefly been back behind Tola. So Ola, there you can see he is behind Tola. So what's happened there is Ola has got ahead of Paul Vidler, so he's gone backwards in that Ferrari. It's been a really poor start for the aggressive Englishman, who's normally getting some moves done and getting his work done a little bit further forward. There's yellow flag ahead. That might well be Borneveg, who is still trying to make his way back to the pits. It's certainly somebody, yes, it is Maximilian Borneveg, and credit to him for getting out of the way, as a couple of drivers have made it back into the pits. So Backlash Pospisil hasn't left. Arzen Popov and Marco Lino are in the pits, so they are recovering. As you can see, Lino has gone out ahead of Arzen Popov. He's got a little bit more damage to it, but Pospisil has not left the pits, Czech driver. And you can see that Mordeveg has had to pull right out of the way. So the German has been a little bit unfortunate there in having to pull out of the way of absolutely everybody. Who else is back there? That's Daniel Kazakevich in the 715 McLaren. As he's into the wall is Daniel Kazakevich. Unfortunately, we cut to him at the wrong time. Christian Överlund has got an ahead of Kazakevich, but he's been held up, the Norwegian driver, because that is Petter Postel quite far back. Postel once again sporting plenty of damage, as he was in qualifying earlier on, with Gordon Brown now in 25th position. So he needs to get a few more moves done, and the Audi, you're back in to get past Renat Serpentine, who's been struggling quite badly in this season. Who's that that's gone round? Who's that? It's car number 12, and it's car 230. Juan Giard's in strife. Car number 12 is Maximilian Basler. Maximilian Basler ends up in the pits, and that's disaster for the German driver, who was having a great race and certainly looking to resurrect his championship in terms of trying to get it back underway. Unfortunately, Basler, he had no hopes of winning the championship, but he has certainly now got no hope of going anywhere fast in race number 1. If he gets back out there, the race number 2 might offer him a reverse grid pole, although plenty of drivers look like they'll be taking up that offer. With, you can see, Lino, Pospisil and Kazakevich all still in the pits. Kazakevich, who's limped his way back into the pits. I think Marcolino might be waiting a little while to fix the damage that had adorned his car. Ola, meanwhile, has gotten ahead of, well, stays ahead of Paul Vidler. Paul Vidler in 4th, ahead of Johnny Sharp, which means we've lost somebody because Maximilian Gonalons has reversed his way back down the order. So 12th position he is, after being 3rd a little bit earlier on. Maxime Gonalons has lost out somewhere. We don't quite know exactly where that issue has arisen, but it's now risen, and he's way behind where he was. He's also stuck behind 2 Fords, Jamie Thacker and Anthony Perez. He's having a look up the inside, all a bit half-hearted, isn't it, going up the inside there. Not really committed to the move. Now Gareth Harvey's gone off and wide and taken an alternative line to the first corner, but they all seem to settle themselves down, with Andres Delay still having a look in 14th. Stefan Muller's got past Lee Colbitz. Lee Colbitz remains in 16th, so nothing doing for his silver championship because he's still 4th in class. Johnny Sharp, meanwhile, having a good look at Paul Vidler, but he's now having a better look at Will Friedman, because Will Friedman has gone past him and he's up into 5th, the Frenchman, who's quietly gone about his work. But now Morgan Grace having a look down the inside, going into the heel bend, or the chute bend, sorry, as they get to what they call the boot, with Johnny Sharp now in 6th position. He's behind Will Friedman. Wait for it to update, because the purple Ford Mustang is the colours of the Frenchman. With Morgan Grace, you can see now it's updated. Grace still hounding, hurrying, hassling, harrying Johnny Sharp in 6th. So Sharp having a good, solid start, but not quite what the doctor ordered. About Hyman's is in strife, isn't he? Because he's dropping way back, the Dutchman. who's had a pretty difficult championship, it must be said. He's dropped to 23rd. It's all going wrong for Wouter Heijmans, who has struggled to make an impact this season, with Lee Colbert certainly not struggling to make an impact. He's got Michael Brush-Tilly ahead, and the ego has landed, and he's up into 15th, the Canadian. So, still plenty of work to do. He'll want to be a little bit further ahead. He's got Stefan Muller and Andres Delay ahead, but the Canadian getting some good work done so far. Looks very clean on his Porsche too, so certainly one of those that he can be pleased with at this moment in time. So yellow flags out, that's for plenty of drivers who remain in the pits, and you can see Basler, Lino, Popov, Kazakevich and Juan Gia have all been affected. Juan Gia remains in the pits, so does Bordebeck, and so does Vaclav Pospisil, hasn't got going. So the Czech driver really has struggled to get away. So here's Ola, or Tola as I've been calling him, 5 seconds back from Travaglioli, who is only 0.8 of a second back from Vermeulen. Vermeulen in the lead of the race, with Travaglioli in second position, so second, 0.8 of a second back for the Italian, and it just looks like the South African ahead is comfortable without being complacent, isn't he? Because 0.8 of a second is very much at arm's length by Vermeulen standards, in terms of not expecting any kind of move. But Travaglioli will have, at some point anyway, a bit of an idea, or certainly designs, on potentially taking first place if he can stay with him, although he has dropped back another couple of tenths. He's gained plenty of time on Ola, who has still got Paul Vidler behind. Vidler will have to wait, hopefully, for the Lexus to burn its tyres. I say hopefully for his point of view, with Will Friedman now having caught up as well in the purple Ford Mustang. So that's Will Friedman, who's still bringing Johnny Sharp with him. Sharp, who's refusing to go away. He's got Morgan Grace half a second back of Richard Gearman, just waiting patiently on the back of this. If he can stay out of trouble, Richard Gearman, and have a pretty clean race, then he's got it in him to go on a bit of a run, the Dutchman. So, leading the silver class, he's 8th in the race overall, but the silver class is what he's going to be worried about. Anthony Perez is in 9th, and he's gotten well clear at the moment of Maxime Gonalons. Gonalons has gotten ahead of Jamie Thacker, who's coming under pressure from Gareth Harvey, who takes an alternative line once again through turn number 1, the BMW car number 4, and that gives him a bit of a better run through the S's. Up the hill we go. Just don't make sure that you don't run too wide and that you don't get on the marbles, but it's not going to happen because he's staying well in with with Gareth Harvey. So Harvey well in with Jamie Thacker, but not quite close enough. Michael Brush-Tilly has got past both Stefan Muller and Andres Delay. So Delay has dropped back to 14th. He's been delayed by the impending Canadian. Lee Colpitt's still in 16th and 4th in class. He's got Alexander Galugin behind him in 5th. So the Russian, who was one of the safer drivers in terms of his attitude, even if he has had a couple of incidents, they weren't always his fault, to be fair to him, but he has now caught the back of Lee Colpitt, so he's 5th in silver, and it's about playing a bit of a waiting game. Can you get past cleanly a little bit later on? Serafino Gabino's 2 seconds back, so not an immediate threat. Into 6th in class, 6th in silver, and 18th overall, with Borja Aguirre only now making his way back through, although the BMW looking quite badly damaged for the Spaniard, so I think he'll be pinning his hopes on race 2 glory. Here is Jared Vermeulen. He's got 1.5 seconds on Travaglioli, who can't quite keep up with him, can he, the Italian, who's been involved in a couple of incidents himself coming through in the reverse grid races. So we'll have a look and see how that pans out just a little bit later on. We're already nearly halfway through this race, and it is 14 minutes in, and we are potentially having a discon failure. What's happened here? Well, we're going now to the menu. Sorry, ACC, because we're off to the menu to try and see what's happened. Is it me? Is it FRL? It's FRL, ladies and gentlemen. So unfortunately, it looks like the Proteus has, it's failed. It's died. I don't know what's happened. But what I do know is that I'll have to put this onto pause, and I shall catch up with you all very, very soon. Hello, welcome back to the rerun of race number one of round number 5 of the Super Sprint Championship. We're going to be running with a full restart of 25 minutes and a fully the same grid. So those that were taken out earlier on will have a shot at redemption, which means that drivers such as Maximilian Mordeveg, they are able to get back in and race as if it was normal. So a redemption arc for the German and Vaclav Pospisil will be able to go back out again, provided he fixes his equipment, and plenty of drivers will be able to carry on as if there was no issues from before. We'll be back in just 3 minutes' time in order to take away the second staging of round number 5. Welcome back to race number 1, the rerun of race number 1 for round number 5, and we'll take you through the fully qualifying ordered grid, as you can see here, with Jared Vermeulen retaining his pole position for 25-minute Luke Prentice sprints. He's followed by Fabio Travaglioli, Paul Vidler and Maxime Gonalons are on row number 2, with Johnny Sharp and Tola, the new reserve Ola, in the Lexus in 6th place. Richard Gierman is on silver pole. He's 7th alongside Morgan Race in 8th. Arsene Popov is in 9th position, looking to make a better start than he was able to make last time. He is 2nd in silver, 9th overall. Will Friedman is 10th ahead of Wouter Heijmans, Jamie Thacker. Anthony Perez and Gareth Harvey share row number 7, with Alexander Klugen and Andres Delay making an all-McLaren row number 8. Stefan Muller is in 17th. He shares row number 9 with Lee Colpitts, with Renard Serfontaine and Luke Richings 19th and 20th. Bungiar is 21st alongside Daniel Kazakevich, with Marcolino and Petter Postel, the last of those to set qualifying lap times. Mark Lebrush Tully and Maximilian Moordeweg. Serafino, Gabino, Gordon Brown, Christian Erveland, Maximilian Basler and Borja Gigeray were the only drivers not to set a lap time. So that's 7 of them, with Vaclav Pospisil also having to failing to start with equipment failure. The Czech driver not able to make the rerun of this, as we are 30 seconds away from this. And I remind you, this is no pit stops mandated, no pit stops necessary. This will be 25 minutes of fully flat-out racing all the way to the finish, with the reverse grid in play, where all you have to do is complete 80% of the laps in order to get your reverse grid slot. So hopefully those drivers who have nothing to play for at the back will still continue to go, because then you've got the advantage a little bit later on. We are 6 seconds away now. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and we will be underway for the warm-up lap. As you can see here, the warm-up half lap with Vermeulen eventually taking away in the green Ferrari. He's got his stablemate Paul Vidler behind him in the other green Ferrari, car number 1. Car number 10 versus the Italian tricolore coloured red, green and white Ferrari of Fabio Travaglioli. Gonalons in 4th, first non-Ferrari, with Johnny Sharp and Ola behind. Which ways it's going to go as they come through the final corner to set up ready to race. You can see Travaglioli taking a much wider line there. Not going to be great for the tyres for all the marbles that have already been discarded there, as we go towards the short run to the first corner, and the line will be underway very, very shortly. We wait and we wait and we wait a little bit more. There's the stripe that you can see, and we are green, 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 and we are go, go, go. And that's a great start from Jared Vermeulen. I think he's going to be able to cover off Travaglioli, who's given him a little bit of chip ahead. Paul Vidler's made a better start second time around. He's going up the inside of Travaglioli. Maxime Gonalons has been squeezed out by Vidler, so he's not going to have anything to worry about. Johnny Sharp has retained 5th position, so he's going to stay where he was, and Ola behind is going to have to follow in. Richard Gierman appears to have gone backwards a little bit. There's another car that's coming out of the pit lane. That's car 2112. That's Borja Gigeray. He failed to qualify a little bit earlier on, but Ola's coming up the straight now, and he's having a look at Johnny Sharp. He's having a look at Maxime Gonalons. Is he going to get up into 2 positions? He's certainly got 1 position. Gonalons is going all over the curves. Round the outside goes Ola, and round the outside he goes up into 4th position. Johnny Sharp is in 6th, just behind Gonalons, with Will Friedman having slotted in just ahead of Morgan Grace. Richard Gierman's dropped back to 3rd in class. Jamie Thacker's made a really good start. He's up to 9th in the overall standings, which means he leads the silver class. Arsene Popov remains in 10th and 2nd in silver. Richard Gierman's gone backwards in 3rd position in silver. He's 11th. They're going side by side again, as I think Morgan Grace is now having a bit of a fight with Johnny Sharp. Well, Friedman's got past Johnny Sharp, so Sharp dropping back a little bit. Speaking of dropping back, I think Marco Bruscioli's gone backwards just a little bit. No, he's come up. He's up into 20th, so good start from the Canadian. He's been fighting with Juan GR and Luke Richings. I think a little bit further behind as well is Wouter Heijmans, so he heads up into 12th. He's disturbing the top 3-4 drivers of the silver classes. Brown goes Lee Colpitts. Lee Colpitts in the wall. I think there was contact there with the BMW, but he's lit the back end up and he's gone into the wall, and there's damage to the front end, and he's going to have to continue and carry that all the way round. He's dropped back to 23rd, I think it is. He's behind Marco Lino. There's Daniel Kazakevich. Maximilian Borneveg is also around there, so he's dropped back to 22nd And with 1GR also involved, then the BMW, that's going to be problematic for Lee Colpitts as he bids to wrap up. Will certainly go some way to sealing the championship today, the Silver Championship, with him being a little bit further ahead of Gordon Brown, who failed to qualify. Gordon Brown, meanwhile, up into 29, so it's not really been a forever forward lap for the Audi. But now Morningweg's coming in. There's further trouble. That's Andres Delay. Who's that over there in the dust, kicking up and screaming and kicking up again? Think it might be Morningweg. No, it isn't. It might be Maximilian Basler, but we can't quite see. No, Basler's a little bit further back, so we don't know quite what's happened. But someone has dropped back. Gordon Brown's actually dropped to 31st. That'll be 30th in a short second. Further wide, there goes 215. Who's car 215? That looks to me as if it's Rinat Serfontein. More difficulties for the South African, the defending champion, having a nightmare season in silver class. We go back to the front. Ola stays ahead of Gonalons, with Paul Vidler in third position, 2 seconds back from the lead. So Travaglioli is only half a second back from Jarrett Vermeulen. Those two pretty much as they were in the initial staging, with Vidler now having a bit of a fight to keep hold of third position. He's got Ola behind, and you can see that Ola in the Lexus, it's a limited car, but by Christ is it fast down the straight. So if he can get a good run out of turn number 1, then Ola could be in the pound seat, the pro reserve. And it's been a good debut on championships so far. Down the straight we go. Let's see if he can make a move going into turn number 1. Further difficulties back there as well. Car 233 has also dropped back. That's Andres Delay. That's where he got damaged a little bit earlier on. Rinat Serfontein, car 215 31st, is also back there. So that was from the errors that we saw a little bit earlier on. So those two will be coming into the pits to fix the car. But speaking of fixing something, Vidler needs to fix it, because Vidler is in third, but not for very long, because Ola's got to run. He's going round the outside in the Lexus, and now he's going to have to nail him on the brakes. He's got a bit of an overlap, and he's got the position. Great late braking move around the outside by Ola. He's got ahead of Paul Vidler. Paul Vidler's dropped back to fourth, so the Englishman, very fair driving, it must be said, from Paul Vidler. Shows a lot of personal growth, because there was a time in which he would have had an accident there. So great driving from him to allow that and recognise that he was beaten. And it made for some great racing on the track. Maxime Gonalons, meanwhile, is in fifth, but not for very long at this break, because Will Friedman is still all over him like a cheap suit. Johnny Sharp is not done and dusted with this either, and you can see as well that the oversteering Audi of Morgan Grace is up into 8th. That's Popov has now got into the lead of the silver class. He's 9th, and he's ahead of Jamie Thacker. Richard Gibbons having a look at Thacker now for second in class. Now, it's a bit of a disaster really this for Richard Gibbons. I say that he was pole in the silver class. He was leading the silver class first time out. He's lost a couple of positions. The Dutchman, it's not always been his friend lap number 1, but now he's got to wait and be patient with Wouter Heijmans behind as well. Heijmans now providing as much threat to Gearman as Gearman is to Jamie Thacker. Thacker, who is holding his own up there in second position, is he? He's another man that's not always had the most luck as he goes wide, potentially. Jamie Thacker, is he in the wall? Don't know that he was. We'll see, as we can see as well. Paul Vidler's dropped back. He's dropped back to 8, so disastrous lap for the Englishman. He's now way back from third position. Will Friedman's up into 4th. 5th now, is he? Because Ola's up into 3rd. Gonalons 4th, and Will Friedman 5th. So Paul Vidler was 4th, is now 8th. He's fallen back behind Morgan Grace. He's now got Azep Popov to deal with. Popov is not going to provide the stiffest of opposition because of the fact that he is in silver. So it's just going to be about a watching brief. If he can make the move cleanly, he'll make it, but he's experienced enough to know, Popov, that won't be the thing that he needs to do. Jamie Thacker, meanwhile, still holding off Richard Gearman. Gearman ahead of Anthony Perez, who's got past Wouter Heijmans. So the Ferraris vulnerable down the straight, aren't they? Certainly to the much more powerful cars such as the Ford and such as the Lexus. So good driving there from Anthony Perez to get his all-black Ford. It's a bit like the New Zealand rugby team, isn't it, that car? Up into 12th position. He's 9th in class, so he's still got a bit of work to do. As wide goes Richard Gearman there alongside Jamie Thacker. That's the position as well. The Ferrari getting a bit squirrely. Marco Bruschtulli, meanwhile, up into 15th. That is 11th in class, so the Ego has landed up into 15th, and he's got a little bit of work to do to get into the upper echelons of the points paying positions. Lee Colpitts has come into the pits as well, so that car to damage. You can see a little bit of damage on Bruce Tully's front end, so a little bit of argy-bargy there. But Stefan Muller's also come into the pits. So Lee Colpitts is first out. You can see Renat Serfontein as well in the pits. Andres Delay also fixing plenty of damage there for the Spaniard in the McLaren, so plenty of them coming out as well. So I think you can see that one might have come out just ahead, no, not quite, of Vermeulen. So Vermeulen leads ahead of Travaglioli, so pretty much as you were, isn't it? About half a second in terms of gap. The Italian there did at this point start to drop off, but it looks like he's staying with the South African for the moment. Ola, meanwhile, not a lot of pace around the corners as is the way with the Lexus, but plenty down the straight. And also down the straight is Will Friedman. He's going around the outside. Is he potentially Maxime Gonalons? Gonalons shuts the door, squeezes Frenchman to another, squeezing their way through the bus stop, but Will Friedman able to survive for the moment. Maxime Gonalons very much on the defence. And Johnny Sharp has dropped back just a little bit. He's dropped back to 6th, but he's only 1.2 seconds off of this battle, so still plenty in it for the Englishman, who's not had the most luck this season, it should be said. He's a very quick driver on his day, but has not had what you would call favourable luck from any race, I think, this season. So Sharp in 6th position, if he can keep this, would be a very good result. Morgan Grace is in 7th, still holding up. Well, not holding up really, but still in close combat with Paul Vidler. Vidler in 8th position. Car number 10, you can see the bright green Ferrari there, having been 3rd. He started 3rd, having been 4th at the time of the slight off. And look at what it's done to his race, because what was battling for the top 4, top 5 is now 8th, really, and that's not where Paul Vidler, a driver of his speed, would usually expect to be. He's all over the back of Morgan Grace. So Grace having to work hard in that Audi to stay in a competitive position, in 7th position. Down a couple of gears you go. You have to make sure that you don't get the cut too hard through the final corner, otherwise you can sort of end up in the wall a little bit further on from where he's ended up there. You can see the Gonalons still now all over the back of Ola, but the Lexus is in its natural habitat and acceleration zone. You can see it pull away and run a bit like a cheetah up the hill. Up the hill we go, and he's not going to see it for dust. So Gonalons, who was looking to try and get past Ola, is unfortunately going to have to settle for another look at the back of the Lexus, certainly for the next lap or so. Well, Friedman's in 5th, still not dropping Johnny Sharp, it must be said. He's gotten a little bit further away from Morgan Grace. Why goes Vidler? Why goes Popov, though? He's popped himself off the circuit. Vidler spins, so does Popov, and now Jamie Thacker's going to have to duck, dive, dodge and weave his way through, and he does. Good rejoiner there, it must be said, from Popov. Paul Vidler, meanwhile, has dropped back a little bit further, so it's disaster again for the Englishman. Popov has lost a couple of positions relative to his class. Jamie Thacker is now up into 8th in the 4 Mustang. It's Perez in the other Mustang. He's clear of Richard Gearman. So Gearman up into 2nd in class. Normally the bad things happen to him, but the Dutchman having a bit of a change of fortunes this time around. Wouter Hyman's gone up into 11th. It remains 9th in the class for the Flying Dutchman, but he's clear of Gareth Harvey now by only 8 cents of a second. As Popov is only 4th in class, but it's not disastrous. It's just bruised pride rather than ruined race. Paul Vidler in 14th. As well, he's rather ruined his race, to be honest with you. He's got Borja Gigadai and he's got Marklin Brush-Tully in close attendance. So Vidler's dropped back to, what's that? That's 10th in class, it must be. So what was looking actually really promising has fallen apart, really, in the face of a couple of mad laps for Paul Vidler. So disaster there for the Ferrari driver, but he'll get another stab at it in the second race with the reverse grid. Jamie Thacker, meanwhile, looks like he's pulling out of the way of someone, I think. Is he pulling out of the way of Anthony Perez? He is pulling out of the way of Anthony Perez. So more sensible driving there from Jamie Thacker. He's got Wouter Hyman's behind to keep him company there for the moment. For Hyman's not a man known for waiting, so we'll see how that pans out with Thacker's rather sensible driving, as it's often been for the AM champion last time around. He's beat Greg Wood, didn't he, in rather controversial circumstances in the last race. Car 104 has dropped out. That is Luke Richings, appears to have retired in the pits. So Luke Richings there is, I think, further discombobulation issues there, as Luke Richings is bouncing his way around on the circuit. He's in the pits, he's off and away, and I suspect that there may be some further ramifications in terms of connectivity. Anyway, Travaglioli half a second behind Jarrod Vermeulen. Doesn't look like making a move, though, does he, just at this moment in time? Vermeulen certainly looks like he's got it all under control. And you can see there, they've got a big old gap over Ola, who is in the pits. Oh, Richard Gearman appears to have disconnected. Oh, it never goes as you want it to go for Richard Gearman. Oh, he was leading earlier on. He was leading last time out before he got taken off in circumstances that were not his fault. And he's disconnected and he is out of the race, certainly as far as this goes. And he's cut to come into the pits. And that's disaster. Maximilian Borneberg is also in the pits. Lee Colpitts is back out and back circulating, so he will be out a little bit further there. Fabio Travaglioni, I think, might have gotten ahead of Jared Vermeulen. No, he's right behind Jared Vermeulen. Look at that. He's closing. But is it going to be enough as the slipstream down the straight? He's going to go to the outside. Vermeulen's going to show him the outside, and they slot back in through the bus stop. A little bit of curve falling there, but it's all pretty okay. Therefore, Travaglioni through the final corner. No, through the chute they go. Not quite the final corner, just one of the second to last, I think, in the NASCAR track. But they go down the hill and into the boot section and on their way to toe before then back to heel and on to the rest of the circuit. And it's all about trying to keep the South African as honest as you possibly can. We'll go through the order there. Off Richard Gearman. The man, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. You certainly wouldn't send him to go and get your lottery tickets, would you? Because he'd come back and they'd all be wrong. Gearman in the pits once again. So the Dutchman there will have to wait in order to get back out and complete. Even for the reverse grid race, as plenty of cars are in the pits now. Ola, meanwhile, has a 1 second advantage over Gonalons, who's fighting his fellow Frenchman, Will Friedman. Friedman in 5th position. As Johnny Sharp right behind him. It's go, Johnny, go in the Ferrari. And he's looking to try and see if he can get clear of Friedman and Gonalons. If he can get up into 4th position, it would be an excellent achievement. You can see there, Ola, he's not getting away, is he? The Lexus does have problems with tyre wear, but it will also have problems in the, well, no problems in the straight speed department. Now, you can see there is Morgan Grace about 2 seconds back behind this. Anthony Perez has gotten clear of Jamie Thacker. Thacker's pulling over to, I think, defend from Wouter Heijmans, and Thacker's pulling over back to the inside, or to the outside. Heijmans has to look down the inside, and the world which usually go for the move, so he's pulled back out. Maybe he's grown a little bit as Heijmans, as with age does come wisdom, and Heijmans there pulling out and stopping the overtake, whereas before he wouldn't have. Gareth Harvey, meanwhile, in 2nd position in class in silver with Arsen Popov back up into 3rd. That Gearman demise has reprieved Arsen Popov, so he is up into 3rd in silver. He's 13th overall. That means that Paul Vidler in 12th is 9th in... No, he isn't. He's 10th in the silver class. Borja Gigonnet getting up into 14th with his pit lane start from earlier. I think that's going to be a rather terminal pit lane start, though, and he'll have to do that all over again in the 45 minutes reverse strife that we've got coming up. That's the Patreon membership, which has been named after this very commentator this time around, and that's part of the package for £4 a month, as we can go back to Gordon Brown, who I think is in the pits himself. You can see the McDonald's adorned Audi, and for half a Big Mac, or otherwise known as £4 a month, you can get the Patreon membership. It does allow you to open up the sessions a little bit earlier. You can get practice overall to yourself. You can get early access to all of the championships, and that's all for £4 a month. And whilst we've got a slight lull in proceedings, a chance for me to tell you obviously about the second race series that we've got, the second Sunday series I should say. It's commentated on by the FFS and Andrea Mattavelli in the AM class, and that's paid for all by Ashley Gunning. So the Australian there sponsoring the server almost in totalium to bring us the coverage there, as well as the Tuesday night coverage. As you can see there that Paul Vidler has got past Jamie Thacker, but that is one class passing another. And you can see also on the Tuesday nights at 8:30 the Taco Tuesday races are also streamed by Andrea Mattavelli, and the commentating OG that is Darren Mark Davies brings to you the Thursday multi-class action, usually on at 8:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. Back to the racing here today, and that is Will Friedman having a go at Maximilian Gonalons, who goes slightly wide, doesn't he, coming out of the First part will be the shoot corner to get on towards Toby. You can see the McLaren not having it all his own way, although Ola does look like he's starting to come back, doesn't he? So the Lexus is starting to struggle compared to the other cars in terms of the middle sectors and the twisty sectors. We'll see whether or not that becomes more of a problem as the race wears on. And we've got 7.5 minutes just over to go. That's plenty of time for any issues to bring themselves up. Gonalons again doing a little bit of a bob and a jump. I think that's connectivity based, but that might just be the server. So you can see there are other drivers who are also a bit pingy, include Bruce Tully and Hymans and Gigadad, to be fair. So still not absolutely perfect, is it, with a few drivers having dropped out a little bit earlier on. Gordon Brown having come back into the race. I think that might have been damage related rather than anything else. Stefan Muller's in the pits, further damage there for the German, and Luke Richings has had to come into the pits for a 4 laps down, so that might put his qualifying, or his reverse grid slot actually, in serious jeopardy, you would have thought, with Vermeulen now leading after having only done, well, this will be lap number 11. Look at him, he's only got 0.2 of a second over Travaglioli. You can see there that Ola not having problems down the straight, so Maxime Gonalons is still having to fight like hell to try and get close to him, and actually he's got a bit more of a battle with Will Friedman, who's only a 10th less than behind, so the Mustang still getting close in the battle for 4th between the two French drivers. Maxime Gonalons, a returnee to the championship halfway through, as opposed to Will Friedman, who has been here the entire season. Travaglioli, meanwhile, still chasing Jarrett Vermeulen, half a second back. That's Lee Colbitts that they've just put a lap on, the championship leader in the silver class, who has had to, he crashed a little bit earlier on. I don't know whether that was his fault or whether that was he was induced into that particular crash, but you can see plenty of other drivers, Richard Gearman, Renard Serfontein, Maximilian Morniveg, Gordon Brown and Luke Richings have all had disasters and dramas at various points. So Lee Colbitts in 24th couldn't have picked much of couldn't have picked a better race really to chuck it in the wall, because he will still have a bit of an advantage for the reverse grid, with Richings certainly in difficulties, Andres Delay potentially in difficulties, as well as Stefan Muller also going backwards. So there'll be a few drivers who are a little bit out of position even now. But we go back to the battle for 5th position, where Will Friedman has gone past Maxime Gonalons. So Gonalons, the Franco battle for 4th, has gone the way of Will Friedman with 5 minutes to go. The Ford Mustang, the purple Ford Mustang, has got ahead of the racing green and gold McLaren, and now he's got Johnny Sharp to worry about. Sharp, who's stayed with them, he's not been concentrated, I think it's fair to say, but he's stayed with them. He's 1.3 seconds back. Now he might have a sniff of the top 5, and it's been a good race from Johnny Sharp. He's done well in both itinerations of the race, it must be said, to get into the top 6 and stay in the top 6 in that Ferrari. The boxed Ferrari is still quite quick around Watkins Glen, but it's no longer the behemoth it once was. There's talking of behemoths, Vermeulen versus Travaglioli. It's a battle as old as time in the Sunday Series, Sunday Sprint Series, better known now as the Drivers' Super Sprint Sunday, with all the patrons sponsoring the championship. But you can see Travaglioli is starting to put and exert a bit of pressure on Jarrett Vermeulen. Vermeulen in the Ferrari is, in the green Ferrari, I should say. Both drivers are in Ferraris. But Vermeulen in the green Ferrari certainly starting to look a little bit less comfortable. It's certainly a bit of squeaky bum time as far as he's concerned. 4 minutes to go, which I think translates into 3 laps. So he's got 3 laps to hold on against Travaglioli. Travaglioli has got 3 laps with which to pick his route of attack. Down the hill we go now, turning right as they rise up towards the top point of the circuit, down along the back straight. And I think it's going to be actually well. The good thing about the Ferrari, as far as Vermeulen is concerned, is that they're both the same car, which means that they've got the same strengths and the same weaknesses. Into the pits comes Paul Vidler. Is that tactical, or has he got a genuine problem? Because he's come into the pits. This isn't the first time that he's ended up in the pits late in the sprint race, and I do wonder if Paul Vidler has potentially got something in mind. Obviously, the English driver had plenty of disasters a little bit earlier on, spinning away from 4th, having dropped down to 4th position, courtesy of Ola. So Erler got up into third, and Paul Vidler then spun, didn't he, a lap later, along with Arzen Popov. Popov, who's been able to carry on, he's now third in silver behind Gareth Harvey and Jamie Thacker. But Paul Vidler has come into the pits very late on, which would give him a reverse grid starting advantage, but will obviously take away from the points that he's going to score in this race. But looking at the battle for the lead of the silver class, Thacker has got two very capable silver drivers behind him. He's got Gareth Harvey all over him. Gareth Harvey, an experienced driver in the silver class, and in that BMW, started to make it talk, isn't he? You can see that the Mustang there, having been nerfed and bopped just a little bit, is starting to get back, or come backwards now, or go backwards, sorry, with Thacker having let Hymans go. I think that actually, on reflection, looks a bit wise, because there would have been more and more battles holding him up, and now he's just got to be able to concentrate on the two behind, and he's doing that rather well. As a Popov, who spun, didn't he, from the lead of the silver class, very nearly spinning again, isn't he? That's almost, you certainly don't want to be doing that, do you? Borja Gigadai just in behind in 13th. He's in pro, so he's not going to matter too much to this, and he's not going to be able to get any further up the order. But Harvey wants class victory. Popov wants class victory. Thacker wants class victory. And Thacker at the moment has the keys to the joint. As up the inside goes. Oh, I thought he was going to make contact there, Gareth Harvey. He was looking to have a move down the inside. He's now going to cover off Popov, and that's very aggressive in the chomp from Gareth Harvey. That's going to allow Thacker to get away down the back straight. But there's a little bit of choppage going on there from Gareth Harvey, with Arzen Popov there having to shut off, really, or cause an accident. Bulgarian chose to shut off because he's still got another go at second position a little bit later on. But Thacker able to get just precious couple of tenths out of Popov and out of Harvey, and Harvey's now going to catch up, and I think Borja Gigadai's got up the inside of Popov, so Popov not going to be too pleased about that. I mean, he's going to have a slight advantage when it comes to the reverse grid, but Popov not going to be pleased to be hamstrung by a random pro getting in the way. Basler and Kazakevich are no threat behind, so it's not going to cost Popov an awful lot. It's just a chance of victory in the in the pro silver class, sorry. You can see there that Gareth Harvey all over the back once again at Jamie Thacker. They've started the final lap, the leaders. Travaglioli still not quite close enough to get past Jarrett Vermeulen. Vermeulen looks like he's going to control this race and see it through to its conclusion, but he's only 3 tenths clear. We'll have a look at that shortly, because I still want to go back to the battle for the silver class. So we'll have a look just in time to see Travaglioli's going to go to the outside, is he? Because that's where Vermeulen's going to go to the inside. It's going to show him the outside going into the bus stop. They're going to just about survive, and Vermeulen's able to just about take care of that. We're going to go back to Harvey, because into turn one we go. He's got Borja Gigadai just behind him. Gigadai will do very well indeed to stay out of this, but Harvey in 11th, second in silver. He's using a big old run, isn't he? He's going to get a big old run coming out of turn number 1. Up the sweep as we go, the S's, and through to the bus stop. The Ford Mustang's going to be one of the better cars to have, but the Beamer's not bad at all, is it, down the straight? But I think it's going to be Thacker certainly going into the bus stop. Borja Gigadai weaving his way out from behind Pro, trying to take on the battle for the silver lead. And the Silvers are just about getting closer, because Harvey's going to go wide round the outside at the chute, and now Gigadai's going to get himself involved. That's great news for Jamie Thacker. Thacker's able to hold a slightly tighter line. Going into the final section, going into the final sector, Harvey's going to have to play the waiting game. Jarrett Vermeulen's going to cross the line, it would appear, provided he doesn't shunt it coming out the final corner, to take race number 1 victory. And it's going to be a delayed race number 1 victory, but he's going to pull over, weave his way across the line, and he's going to take the pro win. Fabio Travaglioli's going to finish second ahead of Ola. Ola's going to take third. Jamie Thacker, oh, he's got a solid there from Borja Gigadai. He was having a look up the inside of Gareth Harvey, and Thacker is going to just about retain the lead, I think, of the silver class. Though he's just got to keep it on the island for the last 2 or 3 corners, doesn't he? Keep it tight. He does keep it tight. Harvey's not going to be able to pass in the penultimate corner, as I think Arzen Popov is disconnected late on. There's a bit more disconnection, discombobulations, but he's back with us. So Jamie Thacker is going to come across the line, and this titanic battle for the silver victory is going to be won by Jamie Thacker. He crosses the line to take the silver victory ahead of Gareth Harvey, with Borja Gigeray across the line in 12th position. Looks like Aslan Popov has dropped off at the last. Oh no, Aslan Popov has disconnected late on. I think it's heartbreak for the Bulgarian. So it's going to be Basler up into 13th, with Kazakevich 14th. And that's going to be 4th in class. And Serafina Gavina 15th ahead of Marklin Brush-Tully. So we didn't quite take the whole order, did we? So Ola was 3rd ahead of Will Freeman in 4th, with Maxime Gonalons in 5th ahead of Johnny Sharp 6th. Morgan Grace was able to take 7th ahead of Anthony Perez in 8th. Walter Hyman's the last of the leading pro class drivers. He was in 9th position. Then Borja Gigeray in 10th in 12th position overall. 10th in class. Marklin Brush-Tully able to get up to 16th. He was 11th in class. Paul Fittler has been able to complete his race in suspiciously suspicious circumstances. It must be in terms of his pitting, because he did pit late on. I don't know whether there was any damage or any fuel issues or anything like that, but he's certainly been able to benefit from that, and he will be starting a lot higher up than he was previously going to, with Andres Delay also ahead, as is Stefan Muller. So your final order there: Petr Bostel across the line in 23rd. And where did Aslan Popov finish? I think he disconnected late on, and I can see, yeah, he did 21st for the Bulgarian. So it was 3rd in class, ends up being 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th in class. So the Bulgarian really having no luck at all there, with Kazakevich, Gabino, Basler and Lino, Kalugin and Erveland, as well as Juan Giart, all passing him. Lee Colpitts is behind in 11th in class as well, so he take a little bit hard from that. Gordon Brown also hitting strikes, so the two leading contenders in the silver class not having their best race. We'll take a quick break now whilst the admins and the drivers work out the reverse grid race. We'll be back with you very, very shortly.
Green light, green light. Go, go, go.
And welcome back. We've got less than 30 seconds, 90 seconds, sorry, to take you through the grid lineup. As we can see, a fully reversed grid with Luke Richings taking pole position ahead of Gordon Brown in second. Maximilian Moordevek will take third over Richard Gim, and the luckless Dutchman, who once again in position to take a really strong finish, but unfortunately it's not going well for the Ferrari, with Brynard Serfontein fifth ahead of Andres Delay in sixth. Paul Wittler in seventh with that late pit stop ahead of Petter Postel. Lee Colpitts will go from ninth ahead of Azen Popov in 10th position, who disconnected on the very last lap. Christian Erveland is in 11th. He's ahead of 1GR in 12th, with Alexander Kluge 13th, ahead of Marco Lido 14th. Marco Limbush Tully will take 15th, ahead of Serafino Gabino, Daniel Kazakevich, and Marcel Maximilian Basler, sorry. They take 17th and 18th. Borja Gigaray and Gareth Harvey 19th and 20th, ahead of Jamie Thacker and Wouter Heimans 21st and 22nd. Anthony Perez 23rd, ahead of Morgan Grace, with Johnny Sharp 25th, ahead of Matthias Gonalons in 26th. Will Friedman 27th, he's ahead of Ola, with Travaglioni and Vermeulen 29th and 30th, with Stefan Müller all the way at the very back. The German in the Porsche not qualifying for the reverse grid pole position. The drivers can lead away now, with Luke Richards and Gordon Brown, both admin drivers, so two of the more experienced drivers in the field, leading away ahead of Morniveg and Richard Gearman. It's going to be about maybe trying to turn negative into a positive. Two of the quicker drivers in the silver class on their day, especially Gordon Brown, who's second in the silver standings. They'll have Delay and Fiddler coming through in the pro class with the lighter coloured numbers, denoting that they are the pro class. No driver starting from the pits, so all should be well there. Gigaray back to 19th, so he's not starting from the pit lane in this particular race. We wait and we wait and we wait, and you can see the stripe in the distance, and we'll be green just before going into turn number one. We are green now, and Lee Colpitts, no. Luke Richings does get a good start. He's ahead of Gordon Brown, but Gordon Brown's getting a better one, going around the outside, and it looks like the Audi's going to take the lead. Maximilian Morniveg is fighting Richard Gearman for third. Gearman looks like he's got it up the inside, but Morniveg is able to power around the outside. Renard Serfontaine slots in behind, and Paul Wittler's got ahead of Andres Delay. So Delay 6th, he was 6th, he's 7th now. As they all come up the hill, I think they're all through safely, with the exception of, it's the exception of car 198. Who's car 198 when he's at home? We'll find out who that is and see who has dropped backwards. And I think there's problems there for Johnny Sharp, I think. No, it's Jamie Thacker. He's dropped back in the Mustang. And it's Matthias Gonalons who is the man in strife. There's a few who've gone off. Car 232 is among them, and that's dramas there for one of the leads, car 232. Who's that coming onto the circuit now? As I think it's one of the leaders from the silver class. So we'll see exactly who that was a little bit earlier on. Andrew Delay still in the race, so it's not him. Gordon Brown, meanwhile, leading his contact there between, who's that? That's Serfontaine, I think, has gone into the side of Maximilian Morniveg. As in Popov was the man that had gone off. There's further contact. Oh my goodness me. It's drama in the extreme. Paul Wittler's involved. That's the BMW. That must be Lee Colpitts. And it's a miserable race for Lee Colpitts and for Paul Wittler. So the gamble's not worked as far as they're concerned. Who's that that's also gone off and into the weeds? Car 963 is also out and on the spot. That looks like Morgan Grace has hit dramas too. And there's more. Car 715 is also in the wars. So it's quite a few cars that have hit some pretty significant damage. Morgan Grace is out to Porter Pitts. Car 963 has done likewise. It's Stefan Müller who is also, he's gotten through, and you can see Marco Lino with plenty of damage as well. Stefan Müller's got a lot of damage as well, so I don't quite know exactly what's happened. Car 230, we'll see who that is. 1GR has also had to recover back to the pits. You can see the BMW driver trying to get within the lines, to be fair to him, as is Paul Wittler. Contact there. What's Wittler doing there, going into the back of 1GR with all that damage? No need for that, as you can see. Matthias Gonalons as well. Kazakevich, coming into the pits. Morgan Grace and Arzen Popov are coming into the pits, as is Anthony Perez. So that is 10 cars pretty much out and on the spot. So a 45-minute race has been ruined for about a third of the field. Not what we like to see, but Gordon Brown, this is what Gordon Brown likes to see, because he's in the lead. He's got a second and a half over Luke Richings. Luke Richings in second position has got a further second and a bit over Andres Delay. Delay, who's got up in and managed to avoid all of that contact and all of the carnage that you saw there. We'll have to see exactly what's happened. You can see Renard Serfontaine, I think one of the instigators, got into the side of Maximilian Morniveg, didn't he? A little bit earlier on, and he's got a little bit of damage. Morniveg's got a little bit more. You can see Marcelin Brustilli is a man who has gotten well up into the top echelons of the standings. You can see he's up into 5th position, and he is, one of the net benefactors. You can see, look at how many drivers still haven't left the pits. It's pretty much race over as far as they're concerned. You can see Mordeveg struggling on. Petter Borstel has got plenty of damage as well. He's got Christian Øverland behind. Christian Øverland, the Norwegian driver, who has joined midway through the season. He's got Kalugin behind. Fabio Travaglioni not standing on ceremony. Ola as well, fighting with, I think that's Johnny Sharp, who's just been usurped from 12th position by Jared Vermeulen. So Vermeulen trying to see if he can get in on terms with his rival Travaglioni. He's going up the inside of Alexander Kalugin. It's number one, the Italian, and the Italian gets the job done. And up into 9th position he goes with Ola behind Kalugin. It's getting a bit balked by Kalugin. They're going side by side, Øverland and Borstel down through the S's. That's not going to work, is it? They just about get through. Kalugin, meanwhile, has realised he's got Ola and he's got Vermeulen coming through. Vermeulen's going to try and make it 3 wide as Ola gets through ahead of Kalugin, and Vermeulen's forced to settle as off goes Christian Øverland. There's a bit of contact there. Don't know. Oh, it's involved Jared Vermeulen. It's involved Kalugin. It's involved Harvey. There's a stop-go penalty as well. Gonalons has gone into the side of Jared Vermeulen. That is the South African Championship over. Serafino Gabino has hit another Ferrari. Don't know who that was. That might well have been Travaglioni, but I think might have been the root cause of that, with Travaglioni just going past. I think he was getting past Øverland and he was getting past Petter Borstel. Øverland has survived, but not without damage. Ola looks like he's got ahead of all of that as well. Petter Borstel appears to have skipped the nonsense there, but Travaglioni is reversing back down. Jared Vermeulen is having to limp his way back already, and that is nearly half of the race. Half of the drivers in this race having had race-ruining collisions, so I think the stewards are going to be pretty busy just from the first 5 minutes. Now, Will Friedman is a man that's benefited from this. He's got past Ola, and he's gotten right up behind Johnny Sharp, who stayed out of the trouble expertly there, Johnny Sharp. He's managed to get past Friedman and managed to get past Ola and Øverland. Borja Gigadai is getting in on the act as well. He's in 12th, just behind Øverland, who was a man under pressure now, I think it's fair to say, with Gonalons and Hyman's. Gonalons, I think, Hyman's the man that you can see with plenty of damage. So Gigadai is going to go up the inside. There's another Ford. Who's that? That must be from earlier, I think, as Gigadai gets past Øverland. And up the inside goes down to Hyman's. He gets past Øverland, but not ahead of Borja Gigadai. So Gonalons is behind as well. He's going to go up the inside of Øverland. It's a bit demoralising there for the Norwegian. Still wants to keep himself out of trouble with all that damage, to be completely honest with you. But avoid it he is. The one positive is that with all these drivers spaced out, there's not going to be as many collisions. But there is another one, because Maximilian Borneveg is in strife and he's off. And he's off at the bus stop, and he's having to reverse his way back to an acceptable rejoining position. Car number 10, that's Paul Vittler as a stop-go, as a speeding penalty for stop-go. So that is going to be, well, his race was done anyway, so it's not going to really matter to him, to be honest with you. Gordon Brown, meanwhile, we'll take a look at him. He does lead, and he leads well. This could be a pretty pivotal weekend in the outcome of the Silver Championship, with Lee Colbitz having twice gotten involved in collisions. And Gordon Brown now leading the silver race and leading the race overall. He's got Luke Richings behind. Andres Delay hasn't really caused any issues for Luke Richings. So the McLaren driver has a little bit of damage, doesn't he? But he's certainly not a threat at this moment in time. Marklin Brush-Tully is just starting to catch up to Renard Serfontaine, but you wouldn't say it's hand over fist. Serfontaine has a little bit of damage himself, doesn't he, in the Ferrari, but you can see who's that car 715. I can't remember who it is, to be honest, in terms of all these drivers who have been crashed into laps, and that's Kazakevich behind. So no dramas there. I think Vermeulen has come into the pits to continue. So has Travaglioni. I think he's out there continuing after his earlier skirmishes with anything that moves. It's Muller ahead of him, and Stefan Muller has got a bit of a task to stay ahead. Christian Øverland has crashed, and there's further damage there for the Norwegian. Another man who's going to find himself taking an early bath. Maximilian Borneveg is coming into the pits following his earlier off. Gareth Harvey, meanwhile, has recovered somewhat. He was another man that was affected by all the goings-on at the bus stop a little bit earlier on. And Jamie Thacker appears to have just kept himself out of trouble. Travaglioni's going to have a look. Is he going into the bus stop on Stefan Muller? It's not going to work. So Stefan Muller continues in at 13th. Travaglioni continues in at 14th. With Gonalons ahead, all over the back of Bouter Hyman's, with Borja Gigadai just ahead, trying to get past Petter Borstel. Petter Borstel, who was been surviving, I think it's fair to say, with the damage that he's got. You can see that Ferrari looks horrible. But Gigadai goes into the wall as well. He's gotten a little bit too loopy and a little bit too handsy on the throttle, and that's the result. Goes into the wall, bounces back off, stays behind Petter Postel, and you can see there, look at the damage on all of those cars. Wouter Heijmans in 11th is another man with plenty of damage, and it's Matthias Goddelons, another man whose car is not in original condition, behind. So Goddelons there looks the quicker of the four, doesn't he? Certainly looks like the car with the certainly the best originality rating in that McLaren that doesn't look quite so damaged. Petter Postel's doing a good job actually of holding these back. You can see Stefan Buller's doing likewise with Fabio Trapaglioli. But going into the final corner now, is Gigadai going to be able to nail Petter Postel? Up through the final corner, he's got himself a good run, the BMW. Should be able to get into the slipstream with the Ferrari, should be able to get the move done. You can see there Matthias Goddelons is having a look, but Wouter Heijmans too far ahead. Gigadai there going side by side, and Goddelons goes bumper riding, and he's gone bumper cars, and he's gone banger racing, and Goddelons has decided that the best form of attack is unfortunately too much attack. He's gone into the back of Wouter Heijmans, and Goddelons, his reputation is Goddelons as far as this race is concerned. Stefan Buller has got past, so has Fabio Trapaglioli. He's going to go around the outside of the Ferrari. He's going to go up to what's going to be 11th position if he's able to make it stick. Round the outside he goes, he crashes into Stefan Buller, into the wall he goes. That was completely needless. There's 4 collisions there as Stefan Buller drives into him. I don't know whether that was entirely necessary, but yeah, Trapaglioli with a similar accident to what he had last time out with Marcelin Brusciulli. That spun Brusciulli off and allowed Trapaglioli to keep going, but the Italian shuts the door where it couldn't be shut. There was a foot in the door already, and unfortunately he's another man to have gone banger racing once again. Petter Postel remains in 11th after all of this. Gigadai has got past, but Stefan Buller has had to pull into the pits and retire. So Goddelons in 13th after his earlier travails, behind Wouter Heijmans, who was not really, well, no, he's gone away, isn't it? It was Goddelons who had to do the waiting. Jamie Thacker is in 11th position, so he's surviving as well, and he's surviving rather well, it must be said. Gareth Harvey back up into 15th, which I think is, it's only 6th in class, which is, it tells you how much this race has been turned on its head. I think that might be, is that the BMW of Lee Colpitts behind, who could still potentially, if that's him, no it isn't, he has retired after his earlier dramas. No, he isn't, he's up into 19th. He was spun off, he's 2 laps down. He could be 15th or something by the time this finishes, just because of how many crashes we've all had. Andres Delay is caught up to Luke Richings. Luke Richings has, well, he's dropped off from Gordon Brown. Delay going the long way around the bus stop, and off and into the weeds he goes. No, not quite. He's able to just about rescue it, but the back end bunny hops its way round, and he's lost a couple of seconds, but that's it. Renard Serfontaine is behind all of this, and it's plenty of traffic in between him and the object, I think. So yes, he's got 104 ahead. That's Luke Richings. It's Delay in 3rd, and it's Marcelin Brusciulli in 5th. Brusciulli's got a couple of cars in his way, so Marcelin Brusciulli's got Kalugin. That's Kalugin getting out of the way. It looks like Kazakevich is out of the way as well. Car 720 as a stop-go penalty. That was Christian Overland, who, to be honest, his brace was done anyway, as was Paul Vidler, who has served his brace. Served his penalty, sorry. So plenty of penalties being handed out, in addition to what I think will be plenty of penalties being handed out in the stewards, because the feature race has not gone as any of us would have hoped. Gordon Brown leads. We're only 13 and a half minutes into this. Gordon Brown leads. He is in 1st position. He's got 4 seconds on Luke Richings, who has had Andres Delay catch him up. So Delay still the leader of the pro class. He's got Marcelin Brusciulli, the man they call the Ego, in 5th, only 2 cars behind, but he's the next in the queue, the Canadian, who's got Renard Serfontaine to pass, and Serfontaine not always an easy man to get past, as Maximilian Morneveg will tell you. That's Ola in 6th position, so 3rd again. What's proven to be a pretty good debut for Ola in the Lexus. He's 3rd. And he's gotten ahead of Johnny Sharp. So Sharp's in 7th. He's back up where he should be. And he's got the fastest lap, to be fair to him. So Johnny Sharp doing a good job in that Ferrari, especially as all around him are losing their heads. It's Will Freeman, another man with a car not in original condition, as you can see from the damage on that front end. He's 8th and he's 5th in the Pro class. Warhar Gigaday is 9th and he's 6th in Pro. Petter Boschnall's 10th and he is 4th in the Silver class. And he's got Jamie Thacker in 11th place, who is 5th in the Silver class. Jamie Thacker, who's having a good run as well because he won earlier on, didn't he? You can see there Wouter Heijmans and Maxime Gonalons going and resuming battle. Gonalons obviously having butted Heijmans out of the way a little bit earlier on. To his credit, Matthias Gonalons, he did wait by one way or the other. He waited, so he's this is the battle for 12th and 13th on the road. That would be the 7th spot in the class, with Gareth Harvey 14th and 6th in the Silver class. Plenty of gaps opening up as Gabino, Kazakevich and Lee Colpitts, and it's all getting very spaced out because of the accidents that we all had a little bit earlier on. Paul Vidler remains lapping out there just about. Anthony Perez has remained in the pits, and Christian Ilverland is serving a stop-go, along with Stefan Muller serving I don't want to go in 24th. There's another man that's coming to the pits, Daniel Kazakevich. So the Russian there with even more damage. So that's going to be an increase in position for, or gaining a position for, Lee Colpitts. And Maximilian Mordebeck, who's gone off again, and that looks like it's Gigaday going around his outside, is it? No, that's another BMW. That might be Juan GR. So Jared Vermeulen has gotten ahead. So the South African driver, it's been a pretty torrid season by his standards. He won earlier on, didn't he? But he's not going to be going any further in terms of victory. He's got ahead of Mordebeck, and he's going to be, at best, what's that? That's going to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It's going to be 9th in class, isn't it? Which is not what we were accustomed to seeing from Jared Vermeulen, with Travaglioli having earlier had his own travails. It looks like Travaglioli has retired and dropped out of the race. So I do wonder if the Italian has come to grief once again in his earlier battle. Obviously, he was the one that had a bit of a needless collision, it must be said, with Stefan Muller. Muller has not gone out of the pits, and I think Travaglioli has elected not to go out. Andres Delay, meanwhile, is being delayed by Luke Richings. Luke Richings is in the 2nd position in the Ford Mustang that you can see, the red and blue Ford Mustang that you can see. And he's got a good lead over Andres Delay. Well, no, he hasn't. He's got a good lead over Renard Serfontein. Speaking of a good lead, it's Gordon Brown, 5 seconds clear of Luke Richings, and Luke Richings now having a bit of a defensive job to do as far as Gordon Brown's concerned. You can see Delay, look at him all over the back of him going down the straight, but the McLaren's got no straight line speed whatsoever. Is he going to have to launch a Dan Dare move on the brakes? No, not quite on this occasion, and through turn number 1 he goes. He's unable to take advantage of the McLaren's superior pace, certainly his superior pace, as the Ford should get away down the straight. We'll see if there's any further chat in the... Yes, I think it's Fabio Travaglioli says it's impossible to race. I suspect that a few might have a few opinions on that from him, but there we go. There's plenty of other drivers who've registered some irritation, I think, with regards to what's happened, and we'll certainly see if there's anything to come of that, with Luke Richings now 5.2 seconds clear. Andres Delay in 3rd position, and Mark Limbrush-Tully is caught up. So the Porsche driver, who's had to exercise a bit of patience, but look at where he's got him. He's in 2nd in class. He's got a good chance at the lead in class. He's going to go up the inside into the hairpin. No, not quite. And through the hairpin he goes. He's got to bide his time here, because one advantage the Porsche's got is traction. Should be pretty good in the first sector, should be very good coming out of the final sector. The Porsche should be a match for the McLaren. So Andres Delay, if he thought he had problems earlier, he's now got plenty of them as the race approaches the halfway mark. Gordon Brown leads, and he's 5.5 seconds clear of Luke Richings. Luke Richings has got that gaggle of cars behind him. We can see that's Renard Serfontein in 5th position as well, so he'll be wanting to keep as many cars between him. And Serfontein's up the inside goes. Andres Delay tries to knock Luke Richings out of the way, doesn't succeed. All he succeeds in doing is letting Brush-Tully through. So Marklin Brush-Tully's got the head of Andres Delay, and Richings kicked the back end out, did well to hang on to it. The West Country native in the, well, I was about to say in the United Kingdom, but I would say England. So Luke Richings there having to wrestle back control of that car, and he's done rather well. But now he's got another problem because Marklin Bristolli is all over him like a cheap suit, and the Porsche driver is going to go around the outside, and we've seen this before, haven't we? I think he's going to back out. Down the inside he goes, and it's going to be the last of the late breakers. There's contact there as they're just about all a bit needless there because Bristolli going for gaps that weren't quite there at present. But round the corner they both go, and they both escape. And Luke Richings leading a very charmed life in second position. All of this is great news for Gordon Brown because it holds up Serfontaine, and it creates a bigger gap between himself and second place, with Luke Richings having to fight a rearguard action rather than looking forwards. And Brown in the Audi, the McDonald's adorned Audi, is started to just gently eke away once again. It was 5.8 seconds. I would suspect it'll be close to, yes, it is 6.5 seconds. It is. Marklin Bristolli now looking backwards as well as forwards as well, because Andres Delay is behind. You can see Ola in the Lexus behind as well. He's getting up the inside of Renard Serfontaine. So Serfontaine taking a sensible pill, letting him go, and he retains third in silver, but he's not got any pros to be getting in his way now because they're all ahead, apart from Johnny Sharp, who's going to have a look behind potentially at Renard Serfontaine. And Serfontaine not quite got the speed of the pro drivers around it, but up the inside again goes Bristolli, having another look in the final corner, this time on Luke Richings. Luke Richings now leading once again, a very charmed life down the front straight. 7.3 seconds it is. This is not done. Up the inside goes Bristolli. There's contact there as Richings tries to lean on Marklin Bristolli. Bristolli gets the job done. The car was up the inside and alongside going into the corner. They're side by side now with Andres Delay. Delay's going to have to just about keep the door open. There's a little bit of contact with the wall. Is he going to rebound into Richings? Think he might well have done, but Richings now losing out to Delay, who's also going to lose out to Ola. So Ola going up the inside. He says, I'll take all of that. I'm in the Lexus. I'm quicker than you all. Down the inside he goes, and Ola up into third position. So second in class and an overall third for Ola once again. So great racing there between Ola and Delay and Richings. Richings there, a little bit of contact, being bumped and buffeted out of the way, he would feel, by Marklin Bristolli. Bristolli will say, but he did have the line, and he did have the corner exit or corner entrance on the run down into turn number one, and he was alongside, it must be said. So Bristolli ahead of Ola, but behind Gordon Brown. So Gordon Brown now no longer has a silver to defend. Better Postel's another man who's come into the pits. So more drivers there for drivers further back on the grid. And you can see now Bristolli 6.6 seconds behind Gordon Brown. Brown, I think, has negotiated lapped traffic. Yes, he has. Car 715. And who's that? That is Daniel Kazakevich. So the Scotsman there being balked at the wrong point. And now it's Bristolli who is on a bit of the warpath, isn't he? So 6.6 seconds he's got to find for an overall win. But he's also going to do that because if he can get away from Ola who's behind in third position, but you can see he's gaining all the time. He's unburdened by any damage because all of his moves have not been with contact. Luke Richings now under attack from Johnny Sharp. Sharp not able to get up the inside. And Richings now having had a bit of a... well, he's had a terrible couple of laps. Not all of his own making, it must be said. A bit of a domino effect when one car goes through. Two or three tend to follow. Bristolli again slightly quicker than Brown through the first sector. Let's have a look and see what that gap is. It was 5.8, it's now 5.5. So the Canadian very much on the warpath. He's going to have to be because Ola at 0.5 of a second back is starting to become an issue. You can see Kazakevich getting in the way and not much he can do through the chute corner. Is he going to be able to pull out of the way? No, he hasn't. He's kept his line, receiving more blue flags. That won't please the combative Canadian, but is Bristolli able to get through as Kazakevich nearly goes off? Nearly crashes in front of the quicker drivers on the lead lap, and that's not what you want to see from any kind of lap car. He's got back going again, to be fair to him. You can see Bristolli there looking a little bit worse for wear in terms of that, but 5.3 seconds, he's still able to take a little bit of time out. Andres Delay, meanwhile, is in fourth position, the Spaniard in the McLaren, and Johnny Sharp has got past Luke Richings. So Richings now vulnerable for second position in class. He's lost second overall a little while ago, but he's second position in class is now coming under attack from Renard Serfontaine. So Serfontaine now has Will Friedman to contend with. He's going round the outside of Kazakevich. Kazakevich there getting in the way in an inopportune way, although that might be Alexander Kalugin that's actually got through. So Kalugin there having gotten through. I think we've lost Lee Colbitz as well. No, we haven't. He's in 16th, so he's behind Jared Vermeulen, and we've got Serafino Cabino just behind. So Vermeulen there, very much part of the B class in terms of the non-lapped cars and class. He's he's 15th, and he's a couple of laps down on Serafino Cabino and Wouter Hyman. Hyman's in 13th, having had some further dramas around the lap, given his earlier collisions with Matthias Gonalons. Now, Serfontaine behind Richings. Richings should find this a little bit easier to defend against because Serfontaine's pace hasn't been there, but also it's Mustang versus Ferrari. You can see as well Andres Delay is fighting Johnny Sharp. Johnny Sharp in 4th position, Delay in 5th. So Sharp doing a good job in getting up the road, and Gordon Brown is not been able to respond to Marcelin Bruch-Tully. Bruch-Tully in 2nd position has gained another 2 seconds in the last couple of laps, hasn't he? So the Canadian is certainly going to try and give us a battle for the overall lead, and this would be a good result for the Canadian, given he started very much buried in mid-pack and behind all of the shenanigans and the collisions from earlier on. Ola, meanwhile, in 3rd, is going with him, I think it's fair to say. So Ola in 3rd in the Lexus, only a second back, so good driving there from him to get away and get through all of them, and always in the mud, because he was right towards the back, wasn't he? He was 28th, 29th on the grid, and so he's done rather well to get in amongst it and certainly get into the podium slots, bearing in mind that further experienced drivers such as Travaglioli and Vermeulen have not been able to get through. Now, Johnny Sharp is ahead of Andres Delay, so he's not being delayed by the Spaniard, with Richings in 6th position, leading a charmed life once again, because here comes Renard Serfontaine. They've got Alexander Kalugin in the middle of all of this. The Serfontaine, a 10th behind Luke Richings, and no contact here so far going into turn number 1. So good driving there from the two of them. Serfontaine, who's had a horrible season. South African, who deservedly won the Silver Championship last time out, has not been able to defend the title with anything like the consistency that he would want. He's had no luck at all, to be fair to him, and that's really come home to roost this season, with Luke Richings now in 6th, 2nd in the silver class. And you can see further dramas there as Marcelin Bruch-Tully and Ola come together. I think Bruch-Tully, it looks like it dropped it in front of Ola, and Ola there making a little bit of contact, but Bruch-Tully now having to recover. Bruch-Tully, what was the class lead, is now, I think, stuck behind Johnny Sharp. So Sharp in 2nd in class and 3rd overall. And you have to say that Bruch-Tully there, it was a good chance of the overall win, and it's not going to happen because Ola, once he's ahead, it's a very difficult man to catch him past. Johnny Sharp 2.5 seconds back from Ola. Bruch-Tully a further half a second back there, so the Canadian not going to be very happy at all. You can see that Ola had it didn't look like he had much of a place to go. It certainly seemed like he'd just tapped the Canadian just a little bit, but it looks like the Porsche had lost it before he even got there. We'll find out exactly what's happened there, but Gordon Brown there given a further reprieve, just a little bit of time to hang on, because that was coming down, was below 3 seconds by the time that collision had happened. So 3.9 it is for Ola. Let's see what the Lexus has got. And now the Audi is going to be even more vulnerable as soon as he gets within the straight. 0.8 of a second. So Brown under a bit of pressure. He's sensible enough to know that whilst the overall win would be great, it's got a pretty decent gap to Luke Richings. Richings, who's dropped back well over 10 seconds by my maths. So 6th position to 1st position, that's all he's got to really focus on as Gordon Brown. But he would also like the overall win with just over a third of the race to go, with 2/3 of the race through nearly. And Brown has finally started to come under just a little bit of pressure. 2.6 seconds it is now for Ola. So Ola, and he's bringing Johnny Sharp with him, it must be said. Sharp has not lost much time to Ola, and Bruch-Tully, even behind, is starting to get a little bit racy, that Porsche there. He'll be kicking himself that collision happened, kicking himself that mistake happened, if indeed it was a mistake. But he'll be cross, fuming, angry, whatever your word is. He will not be happy that he's no longer in the lead of the class, because that meant that he had first dibs on the lead of the overall race. And you can see there, look at that, the Lexus gaining hand over fist. What was 3 seconds is now 2 seconds, and we've not even completed the full lap. So the Lexus they're looking set fair to potentially take the overall win. And Sharp is coming with him, you can see, 2.4 seconds. So he is coming with him, and so is Bruce Tully. Bruce Tully, a fired up Bruce Tully, hasn't done yet, or isn't done yet, in terms of the overall race. But here comes Ola, because the Audi there looking very much there for the taking. Gordon Brown in the lead for pretty much all of the race is now having a proper fight, because Ola, what was 1.4, oh dear, 1.4 seconds, he'll be on him by the end of the lap, you would think. Johnny Sharp is still there or thereabouts in third position, and Bruce Tully still with him in fourth. Delay in fifth is 3.3 seconds back. Renard Serfontaine has got past Luke Richings, so we haven't seen that, but Serfontaine up into second in the silver class has gotten ahead of Luke Richings. He's got further dramas behind, because Will Friedman and Borja Gigere are in a close attendance. And you can see there, look at Ola in the Lexus. That car's so fast in a straight line. I mean, the Audi's no slouch even, to be fair. But Ola in second position, 1.1 seconds back. And you would think now that it's going to be a case of when and not if, given the pace that he's shown has been absolutely prodigious. You can see there the Ferrari even can't keep up with him. And it's going to be a case of when Ola can pass and not if. And if this is the offerings of a reserve, then if he's a full-time driver, then look at what he might be able to do, because this has been some debut from Ola. Yes, there's been issues with Travaglioli. Yes, there's been issues with Vermeulen in terms of crashing in race number 2, but he's been able to pick his way through. And now he stands on the verge of taking the overall lead, Ola, as we tick over to the final third of the race that you can see there. The Lexus visibly catching metre by metre on Gordon Brown in the Audi. The McDonald's adorned Audi looks as if it's had a few too many hamburgers. And I say that with no disrespect to Gordon Brown whatsoever, because he's done a fine job. But the Lexus just looks at a different league. And if you can find the sweet spot with this straight line speed merchant, then you're able to exert the kind of pressure from pretty much last on the grid that Ola has been able to exert on Gordon Brown. Through the first corner he goes, and now it's going to be about setting it up. There's 3/10 of between them as they go across the line. Up the hill they go. Obviously there's a little bit of dirty air to contend with. Gordon Brown understeer slightly. That'll leave him out of position through the S's. Now the Lexus has got a clear run. Round the outside of the final part of the S's, Brown's going to give him space, and I think the Audi's going to let him go here, because you can see that Ola, around the outside, he's got the overlap, but Brown does indeed let him go. So Ola takes the lead, and Brown takes a sensible pill, because he's able to get in and stay as the lead of the silver class. He's able to get in safely behind Ola, and Ola is now able to get on and go. Renard Serfontaine, meanwhile, is caught, and there's delay. So delay in fifth position. If he thought that he had a peaceful ending coming, unfortunately that's not going to happen, because Serfontaine is behind, and whilst that's not going to be for position, nor is Luke Richings, they're bringing along Will Friedman, and Borja Gigere has got back. He's now 5.5 seconds back, but I think there's plenty of damage over that BMW. In fact, you can see there the crumpled mess of the metal very much on board the BMW there, as is been the case with plenty of the drivers in this particular outcome, in this particular race. You can see Maxime Matthias gone along, fighting away with what looks to me to be Vermeulen, who is obviously trying to unlap himself. Vermeulen with the bit of the green-eyed monster there in terms of the anger, in terms of his the way that his race has ended. And you can see there that Thacker in 11th, Jamie Thacker doing a fine job once again. So he's fourth in class, and what's been a really chaotic race, that fourth will go quite far into getting him back into contention for the championship. So he's in the top 10, but he wasn't that far. Silver's been quite condensed, and it's going to be further condensed today because of the fact that Lee Colpitts has had some difficulties. You can see there in 16th, and you can see that Gordon Brown, who leads, has had a few dramas in race number 1. Johnny Sharp, meanwhile, appears to have gotten ahead of Gordon Brown. He has. So Brown taking another sensible pill and dropping back into third position. He's ahead of Markel and Bruce Tully. Bruce Tully, who's dropped back in the Porsche, having struggled earlier on and having had a little bit of an incident there. We only caught the back end of it, so I'll pass too much judgment on that one just at the moment. Andres Delay, meanwhile, still in a bit of bother, isn't he? You can see the McLaren there in fifth position, fourth in class. So it's going to be a good result for the Spaniard if he can keep going. Although Luke Richings and Will Friedman fighting their way into the chute, and it's still advantage to Luke Richings for the moment. Richings fighting a battle he doesn't need to fight, because him being silver, still third in class, and Will Friedman in the pro class still trying to get ahead. So Richings in third in class, Friedman in fifth in class, and Friedman just trying to get ahead so we can get to maybe a delay or a Brush Tully. Borja Gigaray is still a little bit further back, and that's Alexander Kalugin. We must remind ourselves one of the many cars that have been affected with damage and discombobulation in the first couple of laps. You can see now that Richings trying to do anything he can to put off Will Friedman. By fair means, it must be said, the Englishman certainly doing a fine job at the moment of staying in the way of Will Friedman. Two Mustangs, two worlds collide. Now, is Friedman going to have a look down the inside? He's getting into the slipstream, but it looks like Richings is just getting away at the moment. Is Friedman going to have a look down the inside? He is going to have a look down the inside. There's a little bit of contact. He hits the curb. Is that going to be considered unfair? They're side by side now. Kalugin's having to back off. Through the S's they go. Richings is going to try and hang on, whilst Friedman has the high ground through the S's. Now they're going to go towards the straight, where Friedman's going to have the inside for the next braking zone. And I think the Richings' battle for, or his grip on 7th position is going to go, as Friedman just about cuts him off fairly going into the bus stop. And that is 7th position for Will Friedman, which is significant, not because of the position he's gained. It makes no difference to him in terms of a class result. But now he can get after Andres Delay and Renard Serfontaine. Serfontaine ahead is only 0.2 of a second behind Delay, and Delay struggling to get away in that McLaren. He's certainly not having it all his own way in the purple and green McLaren that you can see in front of Renard Serfontaine. So difficulties are at play for Andres Delay, and they could get a whole lot bigger if Will Friedman's able to get after him. Back to the lead. We'll just give you actually a bit of a rundown of the lead, as you can see here. So there is Ola in the lead. Johnny Sharp is in 2nd position, and he's got the head of Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown leads the silver class though, so the pro class of Ola and Sharp, they're the top 2 overall, and they're the top 2 in pro, with Gordon Brown in the pro silver lead. He's in 3rd position overall. Marklin Brush Tully is in 4th. He is in the 3rd position in terms of the pro class. So he's final pro class podium sitter at this moment in time. And Andres Delay is in 4th in class and 5th overall. He's got Bernard Serfontaine behind, who is 2nd in silver. And with Luke Richings having just lost out to Will Friedman, Will Friedman in 7th. He's 5th in class, and Luke Richings still in 3rd in the silver class. And Luke Richings there in the Mustang has got a bit of a gap ahead of Borja Gigaray. So Gigaray in the BMW, the damage-adorned BMW, it must be said, has plenty of these drivers' cars. He is in 9th position, and he's gotten 10 seconds nearly on Matthias Gonalons. So Gonalons went bumper car racing a little bit earlier on with Wouter Heymans, the McLaren. You can see there, Lee over to the right-hand side. I'm not sure what the aim of that particular move is, but he's pulling over to the right-hand side before moving back over to the left. He completes the top 10 overall. He is 7th in pro. So the pro, a lot of the pros have risen to the top. It's not quite the ones you'd expect, with Travaglioli long since having departed, and Jarrett Vermeulen being delayed with the damage picked up on lap number 3. And Jamie Thacker is in 4th in the silver class. He's 11th overall. He's got a decent gap over Gareth Harvey, another man who was a bit of an innocent victim in all of the crashes, collisions, trials and tribulations early in the race. That's a Hyman's dropped back to 13th. He's dropped back a long way. He was another man who was caught up in incidents not of his making. Serafino Cabrillo in 14th, another man who can consider himself somewhat unfortunate. Those are the lead lap cars, and then you can see Jarrett Vermeulen, who's a couple of laps down ahead of Lee Colpitts. Lee Colpitts in 16th. He was caught up in the incident, yet bizarrely he's going to be 7th in class, and that might just be a bit of a save, really, given all of the rather needless incidents that have happened over the course of today. Marco Brush Tully has gone onto the back of Gordon Brown, and this, I think, will be Brown pulling over, fighting but not too hard. I think Bristoli's going to have a run around the outside. So the Audi brakes on the inside as tight as he possibly can, and Bristoli is able to have the space, but not necessarily the ability to get past on this occasion. He bounces over the curbs, and the Porsche is now going to have to face a little bit more time behind the Audi. He goes very wide through the chutes. That's not going to do him any kind of good whatsoever, I'm afraid. But Bristoli there, still in third overall, as Brown goes slightly wide. So Brown still in the lead of the silver class, but I think he's going to face a fight to keep the podium position overall. Bristoli's going to go round the outside into tow. That should give him a good run in the Porsche on the way out, but Brown is going to fight down towards the heel bend, and I think that Bristoli's able to get ahead. Yes, he's able to drop over in front of Gordon Brown, and Brown has to concede that position. So sensible driving by Brown. He did fight this particular battle a little bit harder than he fought before, but Brown still knowing exactly when he was beaten and still retains the lead of the silver class, which is what it's all about as far as he's concerned. Johnny Sharp hasn't quite been able to go with Ola, so Ola still leads in the Lexus, and it's been a very impressive debut so far. That's Christian Overland pulling out of the way of Johnny Sharp. So Sharp in second position, a bit of a return to form for the Englishman, with Bristoli now up into third overall, as well as third in class. Gordon Brown, meanwhile, is still a resolute fourth. He's still leading the silver class, and he's still got a pretty decent gap because Renard Serfontaine has lost touch with Andres Delay. So Delay in fifth position. He's fourth overall, or fourth in class, sorry, fifth overall, and Renard Serfontaine is in sixth. So Serfontaine in sixth in the silver class means he's second, and that's the gap that Gordon Brown is looking out for. So Delay pulls over a little bit, perhaps breaking so rather early, it must be said, but Serfontaine in the Ferrari, the blue and white Ferrari, able to drive a pretty sensible race, especially given that that's been precious few where he's been concerned in terms of the results that he's had, not necessarily the standard drive that he's produced, but he's had no luck at all, Serfontaine, in the Sunday Series this season, having won it last time out as well. You know, he was a deserving champion on that day. Unfortunately, it's just not quite come together, but Gordon Brown has still got a 6-second gap thereabouts. We'll just see exactly how much it is as they come through the second sector line in just a second. 7 seconds it is now for Delay. So Delay very much reversing backwards, and now Serfontaine is the meat in a pro sandwich, because while Burkhard Gigeday has gotten ahead of Luke Richings, that doesn't matter as far as Richings is concerned. He drops to ninth, but he has still got third position in class, and it's Serfontaine now in between Delay and Friedman. So Friedman's seventh, he's fifth in class, and Delay in fifth, he's fourth in class, and in between them they've got Serfontaine. Now Serfontaine, he could pull out of the way. He could pull out of the way of Will Friedman, and if he does, Friedman's then going to have free rein at Andres Delay. So Delay quite likes Serfontaine, I think, to stay as in between as possible. I think that behind him might be, is that Jared Vermeulen now potentially going through? Richard, yes, it is Vermeulen going up the inside of the Mustang. That is Luke Richings, who is third in class, and Maxime Gonalons, who has, I think, had further dramas. Gonalons going backwards once more. That's Jamie Thacker going past. So the Frenchman, Matthias Gonalons, has, his pace has Gonalons, and his results and performance has Gonalons in this race, because he's dropped back to 11th. So he's still, where is he? 7th in class, I think he is. Jamie Thacker goes up into the top 10 overall, something that the English driver deserved, because whilst his pace wasn't there in race number one, the results and the maturity certainly was. There is, I think, Gareth Harvey behind as well. He's fighting Gonalons, and I think Gonalons has had to concede there too. So the McLaren in all sorts of bother, and he remains in 12th. So still, like I say, it doesn't affect his class position at all. Wouter Heijmans is long since gone, and the Dutchman 7 Machine is 13th, and way back in the field with Gonalons, 20 seconds, 19.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Andres Delay still surviving in fifth position, and that's great news for, well, apart from anything else, Renard Serfontaine, because Serfontaine can stay in second position. We're not worried about Will Friedman, who has not been able to get past Serfontaine and have a real run at Andres Delay, with Burkhard Gigeday up close behind as well in the damage-adorned BMW. Is, unfortunately for him, not able to get quite close enough. We've got 2 minutes to go. And we'll see, yeah, I think 2 minutes is going to be 2 laps, isn't it? Because of the way that the race is going to settle out and settle in. Because what's that going to be? Yeah, we've got a 1 minute 45 minute lap, isn't it? So, yeah, should be this and next lap as he goes through the bus stop. 1.5 laps to go, and it's going to be easy street for Oli. Must be wondering what all the fuss is about. 3rd position in race number 1, and it's going to be a nearly last to first for race number 2 for Ola. Johnny Sharp is in 2nd position, and a well-deserved 2nd it would be for the Englishman, who has had no luck at all really throughout the season. But this will be a real return to form for the Ferrari driver, car number 69 in the white, black and gold livery machine. Marklin Brush-Tully has still got Gordon Brown behind him, so the Canadian's tyre started to go a little bit all right, because he's 11 seconds off of the pace set by Johnny Sharp. So Brown now having a look behind him, because Brown doesn't want to lose any more time. If he does, then he's got Serfontaine right behind him. Serfontaine is right behind Andres Delay. Delay holding him up a little bit more, so Serfontaine delayed by Delay, and it's now Will Friedman all over the back of him. So the Frenchman's going to have a look, and maybe if he can get one, he might be able to get the other, but he's not able to get ahead. They're going on to the last lap in any second now, so it really is do or die time as far as Will Friedman is concerned. It's going to be 5th at best for the Frenchman, because Borja Gigadai is catching up, and he's catching up a lot quicker than Friedman's able to get ahead of Serfontaine. If Serfontaine can get ahead, or if he can get ahead of Serfontaine, he can get ahead of Delay. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, round the final corner we go for the penultimate time, and the Frenchman, is he going to have a move up the inside of Serfontaine? It's got to be clean, because otherwise, if there's any issues, he loses a place to Borja Gigadai. I don't think he's going to be close enough, I'm afraid, going into turn number 1. So we'll have another look. Gordon Brown, meanwhile, still all over the back of Marklin Brush-Tully going through the S's. And I think Marklin Brush-Tully's in dramas, isn't he? He's in difficulty, because the Canadian, what's happened here? Why has he gone to drive? It doesn't matter. Marklin Brush-Tully might be out of fuel, because I think he's losing out to Delay, he's losing out to Serfontaine, and he's losing out to Will Friedman. I think this is fuel related. So Borja Gigadai is going to get past him as well. Wouter Heymans might even get past him, depending on how extreme this is. But the Canadian, what was 3rd, and a comfortable 3rd, is unfortunately going to be way, way, way back, and it's just not been Brush-Tully's evening, has it? One of those things, it happens to the best of us, and unfortunately it's happened to him here. Here is Ola, though, coming through the final couple of corners to take what will be his first ever victory on his first ever evening. Pulling over to the side, that's Matthias Gonalons, who's had lots and lots of dramas himself, the Frenchman. But he should still finish 14th, which I think is going to be 9th in class. I think 8th or 9th in class. Through the final corner we go, and Ola is going to pull over, weave his way across the line, and it's going to be victory for the reserve. Ola coming across the line ahead of Johnny Sharp, who's going to take a well-deserved 2nd place. An excellent drive from Johnny Sharp. Go, Johnny, go, go. And here is Gordon Brown coming through to take the silver class victory and 3rd overall. So the Flying Scotsman is going to make up for a horrible start to the evening with maximum points in the feature race. Flash of the lights as he does. Andres Delay is going to take 3rd in class and 4th overall, so the McLaren driver is able to hold on ahead of Renard Serfontaine, 2nd in silver for the South African. A real return to form there. Will Friedman is 6th and finishes ahead of Borja Gigadai. So Friedman 6th, 4th in class. Borja Gigadai is in 7th, so he's 5th in the Pro Class. Luke Richings has taken 3rd position, 8th overall, 3rd in silver. Marklin Brush-Tully, has he made it? I don't think he has. No, he's crawling down. I think he's pulled over and he's out of the race. He's out of the race because Jamie Thacker's crossed the line. He's in 9th, so he's 4th in class, ahead of Gareth Harvey. 5th in class, he's gotten ahead. Wouter Heymans is going to finish ahead of Marklin Brush-Tully. So Wouter Heymans takes 11th. Serafino Gabino potentially is next across the line. So Wouter Heymans 11th is ahead of Brush-Tully, who has retired. He is out of the race, and I think that's going to be it, with only Postel behind Hasan Popov, who I think hasn't yet taken the flag. He's just coming over to finish the race now. Brush-Tully's going to end up 13th, so the Canadians run out of fuel. And that is disastrous, really, for the Porsche driver. But over the line comes Hasan Popov to be the last man across the line, ahead of Petr Postel. So Postel is going to finish in 18th behind, 19th behind as then pop up with a couple of drivers now leaving. You can see there the Postel might be another man in fuel difficulty. Well, it is a bit of a fuel crisis at the moment, but I didn't think it would rear its head like this. Christian Overland, who is 4 laps down, is the last man across the line in 22nd position, and you can see there that the fireworks going off and celebrating the end of what's been one of the more chaotic races, I think it must be said, of the season. Certainly, I don't think there's been a more chaotic race for a good couple of seasons, to be honest with you, and plenty to digest for a lot of the drivers here. Overland is now coming across the line eventually, so that McLaren is still looking not in the best of health. Through the final couple of corners we go, and this will confirm what will be about 23rd or 24th as a few drivers start to leave, and we can see now the final results coming up very, very shortly as Overland gets across the line to complete a rather busy day's running. So that'll be all of the drivers now across the line. That should be all of the drivers now accounted for, as I think only Marklin Brush-Tully is, he's the only one that hasn't crossed the line, isn't he? Has Muller and Perez are the last two in the race. Only you can see they're having won a little bit earlier on. He finished ahead of Johnny Sharp in second position. Gordon Brown completing the podium in the silver class. All it is for me to say is thank you all for joining me. And you can see there, there we go. We've got ourselves a result. So Ola finished in first position. He was ahead of Johnny Sharp in second. So that's a Pro 1 and 2. Gordon Brown was third and the leader of the silver class. He's ahead of Andres Delay. Delay finished in third in the Pro class and fourth overall. Renard Serfontaine was in fifth position, second in silver, ahead of Will Friedman and Borja Gigaday. Eighth position was Luke Richings. He took the final podium spot with third in the silver class. That leaves everything for me to say now. All I will say is join me again for the penultimate round at Silverstone next week. Take care, and I shall see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.